Let's talk about one of the biggest headaches in NLP, shall we? In this explainer, we're going to show you how to set up a complete data annotation project in Argilla. We're talking from a raw, messy file to a project that's ready to go, all in just a few simple steps.
Does this feel a little too familiar? You know the drill, right? You spend so much time cleaning, prepping, and wrangling your data that by the time you're finally ready, all that energy for the actual data science is just gone. It's a huge bottleneck, but it really doesn't have to be this way.
Good news is we can totally fix that. Over the next few minutes, we're going to take a raw news data set and, using the Argilla SDK, turn it into a project that's instantly ready for your annotation team. So let's dive in.
All right, let's get our hands dirty. Phase 1 is what I like to call the blueprint. This is where we design our entire project first. We're going to define exactly what we want to annotate and how we want to do it. And we'll do all of this before a single piece of data is even uploaded. Trust me, this step is absolutely crucial.
So here's our game plan. Super simple. First, we connect to Argilla. Then we'll take a quick peek at our source data, just to see what we're working with. Next comes the really cool part, defining the settings that build our project structure. And finally, we'll create the empty dataset in Argilla. That's it.
First things first, we need to talk to Argilla. We do this by setting up a connection using the SDK. You can think of this as just opening up the communication line. It's the foundation that makes everything else we're about to do possible. Okay, this next part is probably the most important concept to get your head around. To configure an Argilla dataset, you just need to understand two things: fields and questions. The easiest way to remember it is like this. Fields are the what, the actual content you'll be annotating, and questions are the how, the tasks you'll ask your annotators to perform on that content.
So for our news dataset, the what is super simple. It's the text of the news article itself. That means we just need to define a single text field. This one line of code basically tells Argilla, hey, get ready because we're about to send you a bunch of text for our team to work on. Now for the how, and this is where things get really interesting because we're going to set up a dual task project. First, we'll use a label question to classify the article's topic. Is it business or is it sports? Then we'll add a span question which lets our annotators zoom in and highlight specific things right inside the text, like names of people or organizations.
All right, blueprint complete. We've designed the whole structure. So let's move on to the next phase and actually build this thing out. It's time to upload our data.
Now that all our settings for fields and questions are defined, we create the dataset in Argilla with just a single command. And just like that, boom, it appears in the UI, perfectly configured. It's all there, except for one tiny detail.
This. 0 records. We've essentially built this beautiful empty house. The framework is perfect. The rooms are all laid out, but nobody's home yet. We have the structure, but none of our actual news articles are in there.
So, that's the big question, right? How do we bridge this gap? How do we get all of our raw data from that source file into this awesome structure we just built in Argilla? You might think it's complicated, but it's actually incredibly straightforward.
The secret sauce is a simple two-step process. We log our records, and we provide a mapping. Think of this mapping as a tiny instruction manual, or a little map, that tells Argilla exactly which column from our source data goes into which field or question we created.
And this slide shows you just how simple that mapping really is. We are literally telling Argilla, hey, see the text column from our source file? That goes into our text field. And that label text column, that's going to populate our label question. It's just a direct, one-to-one connection. And here is where the real magic happens. This is a total game changer. Since our source data already has some labels in it, we can map them directly to our question. What this does is load them as pre-annotations. It means your team doesn't have to start from a blank slate. They just have to review and correct, which is a massive, massive time saver.
So, we've designed the blueprint, and we've built out the dataset. Let's move to the final stage and see how this all comes together. It's time for the reveal.
As soon as you run the code to log the records, you can switch over to the Argilla UI and just watch it happen. You'll literally see the record count ticking up in real time as all that data just streams right in. It's incredibly satisfying to watch.
And just like that, we're done. What was a raw, messy file just a few minutes ago is now a fully loaded, multitask annotation project, complete with pre-annotations. It is 100% ready for your team to jump in and start creating value immediately.
So there you have it. Data preparation doesn't have to be a barrier anymore. It can be an accelerator. By turning this common bottleneck into a simple, repeatable process, you free up so much time to focus on what really matters. So the only question left is, what are you going to build next?